Because all the competition comes from inside us, you know, the competition with ourselves, and to try and get better. And
she had one of the most recognizable voices in music. Smoky, smooth, untouchable. Hits like Smooth Operator and The Sweetest Taboo turned her into a global icon. But then, in an industry where everyone fights to stay relevant, Sade walked away without explanation, and she vanished as elegantly as she arrived, leaving millions wondering why. Was it burnout, betrayal, a secret crisis behind the velvet curtain? Fans speculated for decades. The world missed her voice, but few realized how much pain it had carried. Because the truth is, this wasn't just an artist stepping back. It was a woman protecting herself from a spotlight that had turned hostile. And the full story, it's raw, haunting, and far more human than fame ever allows. A childhood between worlds. Sade was born Helen Fazeo Adu in Ibadan, Nigeria in 1959, a place bursting with music, color, sun, and soul. Her early childhood was warm, vibrant, alive with rhythm. The air itself carried a heartbeat. There was freedom in the noise and the language, in the land that felt like hers. But at just 4 years old, that life ended abruptly. Her parents separated, and she was taken, along with her brother and mother, across the world to Essex, England. And nothing was ever the same again. It was gray, stark, quiet in a different, colder way. The skies were dim, the streets unfamiliar, the people distant. She didn't just move countries. She lost a world and was dropped into another that didn't see her, didn't understand her, and didn't try to. She looked different, spoke differently. Her name confused teachers. Her accent confused classmates. Her very presence seemed to make others uncomfortable. So, like many children caught between cultures, she did the only thing she could. She pulled inward and stopped trying to explain herself. Instead, she listened, observed. She found safety in stillness, retreating into drawing, writing, and the soft hum of music that no one else could hear yet. Living between Nigeria and England, between warmth and restraint, rhythm and order, Sade slowly grew into something unique. She didn't fully belong in either place, and that painful in-between space became her creative home. Her voice, when it finally emerged, carried both landscapes, the ache of exile, the cool of British detachment, the soul of Nigeria, the phrasing, the pauses, the space between her words. All of it was shaped by that dissonance. Before anyone noticed her, she was already becoming Sade, an artist molded not by fame or fashion, but by quiet observation, cultural contrast, and a longing to be heard without ever having to raise her voice. The quiet rise of Star. In her 20s, she drifted, art school in London, sketching silhouettes and fabric patterns, a few modeling gigs, a face agencies loved, but a personality they couldn't market. Nothing stuck. She didn't want to be seen. She wanted to create. Then came an unexpected detour. She joined a little-known funk band called Pride as a backup vocalist. The gigs were unglamorous. Pubs, smoky clubs, rooms half filled with people more interested in beer than bass lines. Most nights, no one noticed her. She didn't demand attention, didn't chase solos. She just stood in the corner, quietly harmonizing, letting the music carry what she couldn't say aloud. But under that restraint was a voice simmering with weight. One night, in a haze of cigarette smoke and whispered drum brushes, she stepped forward. Smooth Operator, still unfinished, spilled out like a secret. The crowd didn't scream. They stopped breathing. Time seemed to fold in. Conversations trailed off mid-sentence. Instruments rested. Even the bartender paused mid-pour. No flash, no spotlight, just her voice. Smoky, slow, aching, and a room that suddenly understood its power. The band noticed. A few industry folks noticed. But even then it wasn't easy. Promoters were dismissive. Record execs weren't convinced. Too understated, they said. Too slow. But her refusal to chase trends was exactly what made her unforgettable. By 1984, she signed a deal and released Diamond Life. It didn't just perform, it erupted. In the UK, the US, Europe, the album struck like lightning. Cool jazz, soul, pop, it was all there. And yet, it sounded like nothing else. Suddenly, The woman who once sang in pub corners was headlining stadiums. But even as her star rose, Sade never moved fast. Her success, like her sound, was deliberate, built on mood, emotion, and a quiet kind of power that doesn't need to shout. Success with a dark undercurrent. Diamond Life was a phenomenon. The album went multi-platinum, won critical acclaim, and made Sade a global name. But while the world applauded her sound, the media began dissecting her silence. She wasn't giving sound bites. She wasn't showing up to red carpets in scandal-ready dresses. She didn't perform vulnerability on cue, and the British tabloids couldn't stand it. They called her cold, distant, difficult. They twisted her grace into arrogance. The same calm composure that enchanted fans was painted as evidence of something darker. One week they claimed she'd secretly had a child. The next they said she bought a football club. Ridiculous headlines, but damaging all the same. The woman who made music that felt like raw confession was now being treated like a puzzle that needed to be cracked. There were racial undertones, too. A quiet, elegant black woman who refused to play the fame game didn't fit their script. Her silence was seen as threatening her privacy, an act of rebellion. Sade tried to keep her head down, but it chipped away at her. The more she retreated, the more the press dug in. One journalist recorded a quote would haunt her for years. It's like those tape machines just scramble what you say. Like a liquidizer behind the awards and chart toppers, she was fighting to protect herself. Her interviews grew sparse. Her voice, once emotionally open in music, became guarded in public. She wasn't building walls to keep fans out. She was defending herself from distortion. The same media that once called her timeless had decided she was too mysterious to trust, and the applause started to sound more like surveillance. Fame became a battlefield. As her success grew, so did the cost. After Stronger Than Pride in 1988 and Love Deluxe in 1992, Sade began to vanish from the public eye, not because she lost interest, but because fame had become something far more dangerous than empowering. Her personal life was unraveling. Her marriage to Carlos Pliego, a Spanish filmmaker, ended quietly. Then came a new chapter with Jamaican producer Bob Morgan. Together, they moved to Jamaica, searching for calm connection, something grounded. But one night changed everything. While driving through the island, she was stopped by local police. No explanation, no charges, just vague threats and an expectation for money. Her passport was held. She was shaken, frightened, treated not as an artist, but as a target. It wasn't just an inconvenience, it was trauma, the kind that stained safety with fear. At dawn, she left the island with her child and never returned. What was meant to be a refuge had become another place that betrayed her trust. Back in England, the shadows followed. In 1995, former bandmate Paul Cook, who played with her during her early Pride days, filed a lawsuit claiming unpaid royalties and uncredited songwriting. It wasn't resolved quickly. It dragged on for nearly 30 years, ending only in 2023. Instead of studios, she was now in courtrooms. Instead of lyrics, she was crafting legal arguments. Her memories, the smoky pub gigs, the late-night jam sessions, were now reduced to exhibits and depositions. She wore her calm like armor, but inside, it reopened every wound. The very beginnings of her career, once magical and full of possibility, were now dissected into percentages and timestamps. And as the legal battle consumed her time and spirit, music took a backseat. Not because she had nothing to say, but because the world no longer felt safe enough to say it. The anchor that saved her. In the chaos of courtrooms and crumbling peace, one thing gave Sade purpose. Isaac, her son, born during her years in Jamaica with Bob Morgan. While the media chased rumors, she was quietly building a life around something sacred, motherhood. She didn't broadcast it. There were no paparazzi baby shots, no parenting magazine covers. She simply vanished into the role, determined to raise her child with the stability she never had. As the lawsuit stretched into years, Isaac became her center. In tropical nights and later in English winters, she sang him lullabies, taught him to garden, showed him how to listen to silence and find safety in it. As he got older, Isaac faced a journey of his own. He came out as transgender, privately, Quietly, within the world Sade had carefully shielded from judgment. She didn't post rainbow banners. She didn't give interviews. Instead, she walked with him. She sat beside him in clinics, held his hand in hospital rooms, spoke with doctors, asked hard questions, made sure he never felt alone. Where the world often demands performative allyship, she offered something deeper, action without audience. Isaac later revealed just how much her quiet love meant. "My mom gave up everything to be there for me," he wrote. "She supported every part of my growth, not just my transition, but everything I've become." For Sade, the role of mother wasn't a side chapter. It was a story. She wasn't stepping away from fame. She was stepping fully into what mattered most. And she didn't need the world's validation. She had her son, a legacy built in silence. While most celebrities use personal stories to fuel relevance, Sade did the opposite. She didn't post support hashtags. She didn't make speeches. She simply stayed beside her son, not because it looked good, but because it was right. Her legacy wasn't unfolding on stage. It was blooming in a quiet home where Isaac was learning to stand tall, to heal, and to become. The same woman who once sang heartbreak to millions was now whispering strength to just one person, teaching him that dignity matters more than approval, that love doesn't have to be loud to be real. Her absence from music wasn't a loss. It was a deliberate act of love. While fans waited for another tour, she was showing up every day for her son. No camera flashes, no applause, just presence, Instagram posts. She never tried to correct the lies the tabloids told. Instead, she made her life quieter, more intentional, and deeply human. She renovated a farmhouse in Gloucester, transforming it into a peaceful refuge, a space filled with her mother, her partner Ian Watts, her dogs, and most importantly, freedom. And perhaps the most radical thing she ever did was simply to stop explaining herself. Because sometimes the most powerful legacy is the one lived in the background, where love isn't displayed. It's practiced over and over in silence. The final note. In 2010, after a full decade of silence, Sade returned with Soldier Love, a haunting cinematic album that didn't just reintroduce her voice. It reasserted her presence. The title track thundered with slow-burning defiance, echoing the battle she'd survived behind the scenes. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, sold nearly 500,000 copies in its first week, and reminded the world that her magic hadn't faded. It had only grown deeper, richer, more resolute. The accompanying tour sold out within hours. Longtime fans, many of them older, grayer, quieter themselves, came not just to hear the songs, but to feel them again. For many, it was less a concert and more a homecoming. And then, true to form, she vanished. No interviews, no behind-the-scenes documentaries, no farewell messages. Just that now famous statement. "I live on my own time." No need to explain, no apology given. She returned not to reclaim fame, but to speak her truth, then returned to the only stage that still mattered, her home. A renovated farmhouse in Gloucester, shared with her partner Ian Watts, her loyal dogs, her aging mother, and the life she fought to protect. These days, she walks those misty English fields in quiet, still radiating that rare mix of elegance and power. No camera follows her. No spotlight chases her, but her presence is felt through every artist she inspired, every heart she once healed, every song that still plays like a personal memory. Artists like Beyoncé, The Weeknd, Frank Ocean, and Alicia Keys cite her not just as an influence, but as a blueprint, not for sound, but for how to survive fame with soul intact. Sade didn't disappear. She just chose something better. A legacy on her own terms. A life where love, family, and peace matter more than applause. So what about you? If you had to choose between the spotlight and your soul, which would you protect? Drop a comment below. Share your favorite Sade song or the moment in her story that hit you the hardest. And if this moved you, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear that disappearing can be its own kind of power. Because sometimes silence is the loudest thing you can say.